Let's be clear. I don't believe in freedom of speech. Not because I hate liberty. Not because I want censorship. But because freedom of speech is a myth, and the faster we admit it, the more honest we can be about who really controls what gets said, shared, and heard. Because if you think anyone, anywhere, can say anything without consequence, you've never been doxxed. You've never lost a job over a tweet. You've never seen a video demonetized, shadow banned, or erased from the internet like it never existed. So before you rage in the comments, ask yourself, when was the last time you stayed silent? It's not because you had nothing to say, but because you were afraid of what would happen if you said it. If you can't remember, you're already living under control. Let's break it down. Here's why freedom of speech is a psychological illusion and what's really going on beneath the surface. Number 6. The platform paradox. You post something on Twitter. It gets 500 likes. Then, overnight gone, no warning, no appeal. Just a message. Violation of community guidelines. The guy who called you a slur? Still posting? Still trending? What happened? You just hit the platform paradox. You have the legal right to speak, but zero power to be heard. The First Amendment doesn't apply to Twitter. It doesn't apply to YouTube. It doesn't apply to Reddit. These are private empires, not public squares. And their moderators, algorithms, and shadow bans are the real gatekeepers of speech. A 2023 Stanford study found that 78% of users who were banned from major platforms didn't even realize they broke a rule. They just woke up, invisible. That's not freedom. That's algorithmic exile. And the scariest part, you don't get a trial, you don't get a lawyer, you don't get to speak in your defense. You just disappear. So ask yourself, is it free speech if the only people who can actually speak are the ones the algorithm lets speak? Because on the internet, reach is power, and power is never free. Number 5, the social cost of speaking. You see a post online. A politician says something offensive. You comment, actually, here's the data. Within minutes, 200 downvotes. Stay in your lane replies, a meme of your profile pic with NPC written on it. Bims with threats. You delete the comment. Maybe even the account. Did anyone legally stop you from speaking? No. But did the social punishment silence you? Absolutely. This is pure enforced censorship, and it's more effective than any government ban. Psychologists call this normative social influence. We change our behavior to fit in, even when no one's forcing us. A 2022 Nature study found that people self-censor 73% more in polarized online communities, not because they don't have opinions, but because they've seen what happens to dissenters. Reddit knows this. Look at any controversial subreddit. One side gets awards, upvotes, and flares. The other gets reported, mocked, and banned. It's not a debate, it's mob rule with a like button. So ask yourself, are you silent because you agree, or because you've seen what happens to the last person who disagreed? Because when speaking costs you your job, your relationships, or your safety, is it really a choice? Illusion of neutrality. Tech companies say we're neutral platforms. We don't control speech. But then they shadow ban certain keywords, downrank conservative or progressive content depending on the week. Verify celebrities but not journalists. Suspend politicians during elections. Then they do it all behind closed doors. No transparency. Number. Oversight. No accountability. This isn't neutrality. It's editorial control without responsibility. In 2020, Twitter admitted to suppressing the New York Post test Hunter Biden story after it was proven true. They didn't break the law, but they broke public trust, and Facebook's Supreme Court of Content Moderation has overturned less than 0.1% of its decisions since launch. That's not justice. That's a theater of fairness, designed to make you feel like there's a system, while the real decisions are made in secret boardrooms funded by advertisers. So, ask yourself, can speech be free when the companies that host it answer to shareholders, not citizens? Because if your freedom depends on a CEO's PR strategy, it's not freedom at all. Number 3, the attention economy. You say something controversial, it gets 10 likes. Nothing happens. You say something outrageously stupid. It gets 100K views. You get interviewed on news channels. You get a book deal. You go viral. What's being rewarded? Truth, wisdom, clarity. No. Outrage, simplicity, emotion. This is the attention economy where the loudest, most extreme voices get amplified and the thoughtful ones get buried. A 2021 MIT study found that false stories spread 6x faster than true ones on social media. Why? Because your brain is wired to react to drama, not facts. So platforms know that rage, fear, and conspiracy get more clicks. And what do? They optimize for it. Your feed isn't showing you what's true. It's showing you what keeps you scrolling. And when the system rewards extremism, moderate speech becomes invisible. So ask yourself, is it free speech if the only way to be heard is to become a caricature of yourself? Because in the attention economy, nuance doesn't go viral. Number 2, the power of framing. Say you're against abortion. You call it protecting life. You get labeled anti-choice. Say you're for abortion. You call it bodily autonomy. Get labeled pro-death. Same issue, same belief, but the frame decides whether you're a hero or a villain. This is linguistic control, and it's one of the most powerful forms of censorship. George Lakoff, cognitive linguist, proved that the words we use shape what we believe. Call climate change a hoax, and people ignore it. Call it a crisis, and they panic. And who controls the framing? Media, education, algorithms, culture. You can say anything you want, but if the dominant narrative labels you as hateful, misinformed, or dangerous, your speech is already dead. Look at Reddit. One subreddit calls itself our anti-work. Another is banned for incitement. Same ideas, different branding, different fate. So ask yourself, are you free to speak? Or are you only free to speak in the approved language? Because if you can't define your own beliefs without being rebranded as a monster, you've already lost the right to speak. Number 1, the self-censorship trap. You're at dinner with friends. Politics come up. You have a thought, but you pause, you smile, you change the subject. No one stopped you. No one threatened you. But you chose to stay silent. This is the final stage of control: self-censorship. And it's the most dangerous of all because when you police your own mind, no one needs to do it for you. A 2023 Pew Research study found that 64% of Americans avoid posting their political views online, not because they're banned, but because they fear backlash. That's not freedom. That's internalized oppression. Totalitarian regimes don't just punish dissent, they make you afraid to think it. And we're there. We just call it cancel culture instead of thought police. But the effect is the same. You start editing yourself, or you even speak. You imagine the replies, the screenshots, the headlines. And slowly, your mind becomes a prison with no guards because you lock the door yourself. So ask yourself, are you free, or are you just good at pretending? Because the most effective censorship doesn't silence voices. It makes them afraid to speak in the first place. So what's the solution? I'm not saying we should ban speech. I'm not saying we should bring back censorship. I'm saying stop pretending it's free. Because the moment we admit that speech is always controlled by platforms, by society, by algorithms, by consequences, we can start asking the right questions. Who decides what's acceptable? Who benefits from the current system? How do we create spaces where truth can survive without tribal warfare? Maybe real freedom isn't the right to say anything. It's the right to be heard without fear. It's the right to disagree without being destroyed. The right to think slowly in a world that rewards rage. But that world doesn't exist yet. Until then, remember, you're not free because you can speak. You're free when you no longer have to ask yourself, what will happen if I do? This video will get hate, it will get reported, it might even get demonetized. But I posted it anyway, because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is remind people they're already being controlled. If this hit a nerve, smash that like button, not because you agree, but because you're still allowed to react. Subscribe, Not because the algorithm wants you to, but because you're done swallowing the myth. The next video, it's called Why Everything You Believe About Privacy is a Lie. You'll want to see it, even if one day you're not allowed to. Stay awake, stay skeptical, and stay dangerous.